There are over 30 million trail cameras deployed across North America right now. 30 million. They are strapped to trees and forests, mounted on fence posts on ranches, and bolted to hunting blinds in the deep backcountry. They are motion activated. They record 24 hours a day. They do not sleep. They do not blink. They do not look away. And they do not hallucinate. That is the thing about a trail camera that makes it different from every other source we have covered on this channel. A hiker can misremember. A ranger can misidentify an animal in low light. A person lost in the fog can hear things that are not there. Human perception is unreliable. We know this, and we account for it in every story we tell. A camera does not have perception. It has a sensor. Light hits the sensor and the sensor records what is there. It does not interpret. It does not speculate. It does not get scared. It just records. So when a trail camera captures something that should not exist, we have a problem. Because the camera is not wrong. The camera cannot be wrong. If the image is on the memory card, something was in front of the lens. Whatever we are looking at was there. Tonight, we are reviewing 6 trail camera incidents submitted to this channel by hunters and wildlife researchers. 6 cameras. 6 memory cards. 6 recordings that nobody has been able to explain. A hunter in Michigan runs a network of 8 trail cameras across 300 acres of private timberland. He checks the cameras every 2 weeks and has been doing so for over a decade. He has thousands of hours of footage cataloged: deer, turkey, coyotes, and the occasional bear. Standard wildlife activity, recorded by a man who treats his cameras like a data collection system. In September of 2022, he pulled the memory card from a camera mounted on a white oak at the edge of a clearing. He loaded the card at home and began reviewing the images. Most of it was routine: a doe and 2 fawns at dusk, a raccoon investigating the base of the tree at midnight, a tom turkey at dawn. Then he reached a frame that made him stop scrolling. The timestamp on the previous frame read 9:14 p.m. It was a normal nighttime image: trees, underbrush, and the clearing in green-tinted infrared. The timestamp on the next frame read 1:22 a.m. That created a gap of 4 hours and 8 minutes between 2 consecutive frames on a camera that was programmed to trigger on any motion within its sensor range. 4 hours of nothing. No triggers, no motion, no animals. In a Michigan forest in September, during peak wildlife activity season, no living thing moved within the sensor range of that camera for 4 hours and 8 minutes. But that was not the part that disturbed him. The part that disturbed him was the image itself. In the 9:14 p.m. frame, the scene was normal. Trees were in their expected positions. Underbrush was intact. Ground cover was undisturbed. In the 1:22 a.m. frame, 4 hours later, the scene had changed. A large section of underbrush on the left side of the frame was flattened. It was not trampled. It was pressed down evenly across an area he estimated at roughly 10 feet by 6 feet, as if something enormously heavy had been lying on it. The ground cover was compressed. A sapling that had been visible at the edge of the frame in the earlier image was bent at a 90-degree angle. It was not broken. It was bent, with the crown touching the ground. Whatever did this did not trigger the motion sensor. It arrived after 9:14. It remained for up to 4 hours. It compressed the underbrush with significant weight. It bent a sapling to the ground without breaking it. It departed before 1:22. During the entire time it was there, the camera did not register a single motion event. He went to the location the next morning. The flattened area was real. The bent sapling was real. There were no tracks, no fur, no scat, no drag marks. He measured the compressed area and photographed it. He told us he has no explanation. He said nothing in his experience, 10 years of trail cameras and thousands of hours of footage, has produced a result like this. Something was there for 4 hours, and the camera did not see it arrive or leave. A wildlife researcher in northern Minnesota operates trail cameras for a university study on wolfpack territory in remote sections of the Superior National Forest. These cameras are positioned deep in the backcountry. The locations are accessed by snowmobile in winter and by foot or canoe in summer. Some of the sites are 15 miles or more from the nearest maintained road. There is nothing out there, no cabins, no shelters, no infrastructure of any kind. In January of 2023, she retrieved a camera from a site approximately 15 miles from the nearest road. The camera was positioned on a large pine overlooking a frozen creek bed that wolves used as a travel corridor. She brought the memory card back to the lab and began reviewing. At 3:07 a.m., the camera captured a human figure. The image is clear. The camera was functioning correctly. The infrared illumination was within normal range. The figure is standing in the center of the creek bed, facing the camera, approximately 20 yards from the lens. It is upright. It appears to be a person, with 2 legs, 2 arms at the sides, and a head. The proportions are consistent with a tall adult human. It is standing completely motionless. The image is not blurred, which means there was no movement during the exposure. The figure is simply standing in a frozen creek bed in the Superior National Forest, 15 miles from any road, at 3:07 in the morning in January, when the ambient temperature was approximately -20 degrees Fahrenheit. The researcher checked the preceding and following frames. The frame before the figure appeared was captured at 11:41 p.m. It showed a normal, empty creek bed. The frame after the figure was captured at 3:09 a.m., 2 minutes later. It also showed an empty creek bed. The figure appeared in a single frame and was gone 2 minutes later. She examined the image carefully. The figure does not appear to be wearing winter clothing adequate for -20-degree conditions. The outline is slim. There is no visible bulk from insulated layers. There is no visible hat or hood. There is no pack, no snowshoes, no ski poles, and no equipment of any kind. It appears to be a person standing in -20-degree conditions, 15 miles from the nearest road, in the middle of the night, unequipped and motionless. She reported the image to the university. She also reported it to the Forest Service in case it was related to a missing persons case. There were no active missing persons cases in that area. No one had been reported missing anywhere in the Superior National Forest that winter. She told us she has placed cameras in remote locations for 7 years and has never captured a human figure at a site that far from road access. She said the image does not make sense. There is no logical reason for a person to be standing in that creek bed at that time under those conditions. There is also no logical explanation for how they arrived there without leaving tracks in the snow, because when she checked the site, the snow around the creek bed was undisturbed. A bow hunter in West Virginia runs a trail camera on a property he leases for deer season. The camera is positioned on a game trail that runs between a bedding area and a creek. He checks the camera weekly during the season and reviews the images for patterns in deer movement. This is standard practice. In November of 2021, he checked the camera and found that it had been capturing images of a specific deer every night for 7 consecutive nights. It was an 8-point buck. The deer appeared in the frame at approximately the same time each night, between 10 and 11 p.m. It walked the game trail from left to right. The angle was the same. The position in the frame was the same. The direction of travel was the same. The images were nearly identical across all 7 nights. He recognized the deer. He had seen it on the property several times during the season. It was a distinctive animal with an unusual time configuration on the left antler. On the morning after the first night the camera captured the deer, he found the deer dead. It was lying approximately 200 yards from the camera, at the edge of the creek. It appeared to have been killed by a predator. The carcass was partially consumed. Based on the condition of the remains and the temperature, the kill appeared to have happened the previous night. That was the same night the camera first captured it walking the trail. The deer was dead on day 1. The camera captured it walking the same trail on days 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. He verified the carcass was still at the creek each day. It was still there. It was decomposing. It was not moving. It was dead. But every night, between 10 and 11 p.m., the camera on the game trail captured an 8-point buck with the same distinctive tine configuration walking from left to right through the frame. On day 8, the images stopped. The camera continued to trigger on other animals, including deer, raccoons, and coyotes, but the specific buck never appeared again. He sent us the images. We examined them carefully. The deer in all 7 nighttime captures appears identical. The body size matches. The antler configuration matches. The position in the frame is consistent, within a few inches of variation. The direction of travel is the same. The only differences are the timestamps. He told us he has considered every rational explanation. A second deer with an identical antler configuration is possible, but extremely unlikely. The tine pattern is unusual enough that he is confident it was the same animal. A malfunction that replicated the first image across multiple nights would not produce different timestamps and would typically be identifiable as a buffer error. He checked the camera for malfunction, and it was operating normally. He said the simplest explanation is the one he cannot accept. That something that looked exactly like that deer walked that trail every night for a week after the deer was already dead. A property owner in rural Oregon uses trail cameras to monitor trespassing and poaching activity on a heavily wooded 60-acre parcel adjacent to National Forest. She has 6 cameras positioned around the perimeter. The cameras are locked in steel security boxes that are bolted to trees. This is a standard anti-theft configuration that requires a key to open. In March of 2023, she checked a camera on the eastern boundary and found that the security box had been opened. The lock was intact. The box was closed and relatched. However, the camera inside had been removed from its mount, handled, and replaced. She knew this because the angle had shifted slightly from its original position. The camera's internal log also showed that the housing had been opened and closed. She reviewed the footage. This is where the situation becomes unusual. The camera captured the moment the security box was opened. The frame shows the inside of the metal box, the camera housing, and then daylight as the lid swings open. In the next frame, captured approximately 1 second later, the camera appears to be out of the box and oriented upward. The image shows tree canopy and sky from a low angle. It appears as if something is holding the camera and examining it. There are 4 additional frames captured over the next 12 seconds. Each frame shows a slightly different angle of the canopy. In none of the frames is a hand visible. In none of the frames is a person visible. There is no indication of what is holding the camera. The camera is being held and rotated slowly, as if it is being inspected, but nothing appears in the frame. The final frame shows the inside of the security box again. The camera was returned to its mount. The box was closed. The lock was relatched. The entire sequence from opening to closing took approximately 40 seconds. She checked the lock. There were no scratches. There were no tool marks. There was no sign of forced entry. The lock operated normally with her key. No other camera on the property captured movement during that time. The eastern boundary camera was the only one affected. She told us that something opened a locked steel box without damaging the lock. It removed a trail camera. It examined the camera from multiple angles. It returned the camera to its mount. It closed the box and relatched the lock. This all happened in 40 seconds, and nothing appeared in the frame. She has since changed the locks. She has added 2 additional cameras covering the eastern boundary from different angles. Nothing unusual has appeared on any of them since. A farmer in southern Ohio has a trail camera positioned on a fence post at the edge of a hayfield. The camera faces north toward a tree line approximately 150 yards away. He uses it to monitor deer and coyote activity around his livestock. The camera has been in the same position for 3 years. In August of 2023, he reviewed the footage and noticed something in the background of the images that he had never paid attention to before. The tree line was moving. It was not shifting in the wind. It was not showing seasonal variation. It was moving. It was getting closer. He went back through 3 months of images and compared the position of the tree line against the fence post in the foreground. The fence post served as a fixed reference point. In May, the tree line appeared at its normal distance, approximately 150 yards from the camera. By June, the leading edge of the trees appeared to have advanced approximately 10 yards closer. By July, another 10 yards. By the time he reviewed the images in August, the tree line appeared to be roughly 120 yards from the camera. That is 30 yards closer than its established position. He walked out into the field and measured the distance. The tree line was at 150 yards, exactly where it had always been. He checked the camera. The lens was clean. The mount was stable. The fence post had not shifted. He replaced the memory card and continued monitoring. Over the next 2 months, the tree line in the images remained at 150 yards. It appeared normal. It remained stable. It stayed exactly where it should be. He went back and reviewed the May through August images again. In those images, the tree line is visibly and measurably closer. He printed the images and placed them side by side. He measured the pixel distance between the fence post and the tree line in each image. The reduction is consistent and gradual, approximately 10 yards per month. That means one of two things. Either something was altering the recorded position of the tree line in the images while the actual tree line remained stationary, or the tree line was physically advancing across an open hayfield and then returning to its original position before it could be observed in person. He told us he does not know which explanation is worse. This is the last account. It is also the shortest. It is the one that stays with him the most. A hunter in Montana pulled a trail camera memory card in October of 2022. Among the standard wildlife images, he found a single frame that caused him to remove the camera from the tree and never reinstall it. The image was captured at 2:41 a.m. The frame shows the forest in infrared, with the standard green-tinted night vision that trail cameras produce, but the frame does not show the normal field of view. The camera has a programmed detection range of approximately 40 feet. Whatever triggered this image was not at that distance. It was at approximately 6 inches. The frame is almost entirely filled by what appears to be a face. It is pressed close to the camera lens. It is close enough that the infrared illumination has overexposed parts of the image. The center is washed out. Only the edges remain in focus. The visible edges show features that are almost, but not quite, human. The structure is wrong. The symmetry is slightly off. The proportions between the eyes, the mouth, and the outer edges of the face do not match a normal human face. It is looking directly into the lens. It is not looking past the camera. It is not looking at the tree. It is looking into the sensor. It approached the camera intentionally. It pressed against the housing. It positioned itself inches from the lens. Within the frame, reflecting the infrared light back at the sensor, 2 eyes are visible. They are open. They are directed at the viewer. The hunter described them as aware, not like an animal reacting to a scent or a light. The eyes appeared to recognize the camera as an object. They appeared to understand what it was doing. He removed the camera the next morning. When he approached the tree, he said he had the feeling that he was being watched. Not from a distance. From very close. From the kind of distance where something could stand directly in front of him. He has not placed another trail camera on that property since. He told us he does not want to know what else may have appeared in front of that camera when he was not checking it. He said there are 30 million cameras recording in the forests of North America every night. Most people review only a small fraction of what those cameras capture. He said he wonders how many of those cameras have a frame like his, stored on a memory card, waiting to be seen. 6 cameras, 6 memory cards, 6 recordings with no explanation, a 4-hour gap with no recorded motion in an active forest, a human figure standing in a remote location where no person should be, a dead animal appearing alive in repeated recordings over multiple nights, a camera removed, handled, and returned without anything visible in frame, a tree line shifting in recorded space while remaining fixed in reality, a face pressed directly against a camera lens in the middle of the night. Cameras do not misremember. They do not imagine. They do not hallucinate. They record. If something appears in front of a trail camera, it was physically present at the moment the image was captured. That is the foundation of how these devices are used in wildlife research and in property monitoring. They are trusted because they remove human perception from the equation, which leaves us with a question that does not have an easy answer. If the camera is accurate, then what are we looking at in these frames? Because whatever it is not behaving in ways that align with known animals, known human activity, or known mechanical error. These are not stories told after the fact. These are not memories shaped by fear or confusion. These are images captured by devices that record light exactly as it reaches the sensor. There is no interpretation built into the system. There is no imagination. There is no bias. Only a record of what was there. And in these cases, what was there should not have been there. If you use trail cameras and you have captured something you cannot explain, we want to see it. You can send images, video, and timestamps to the email in the description. We are building a database of these events. We review every submission. If there is a pattern, we will find it. If there is a consistent explanation, we will document it. And if there is something happening across these environments that we do not yet understand, then the only way to approach it is with data. Frame by frame. Location by location. Timestamp by timestamp. Subscribe. We post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And the next time you review footage from a trail camera, do not scroll too quickly. Take your time. Look at each frame carefully. Pay attention to the recordings from the early morning hours, especially the ones that appear empty at first glance. Because sometimes the camera captures more than what you see on the first pass, and sometimes something is looking back.